Let's take a look at the changes that's been made in America. Integration came about as far as, the public school system and so forth at different times in our country. And the thing is, and I believe it was about 1969 when integration took place in my area in Northeast Louisiana. And I remember all my grade school year, I went to all black school. And here's something. And we were told how we had to walk, how we had to talk, how we had to dress to be able to get ahead in life. So in order to get ahead, we had to compete. And we were always told, you got to be twice as smart. You got to work twice as hard. And that was drilled in us. And we know the history dates back to slavery, the Jim Crow laws and so forth. And actually, from the documentaries that I've seen, Jim Crow, the Reconstruction era was really worse than slavery itself. But anyhow, that's another story. But during my 7th grade year, where I lived in a community we called Newtown in Monroe, Louisiana, Orange Street was the boundary from the black community in that section of town to the white community in the south side. And the bus didn't run our way. So we had to walk to school. Can you imagine walking to school in the 7th grade and you got all these cars going up and down the street and the roads, screaming obscenities towards you, throwing objects at you, spitting at you? It was dangerous. Some people got even hit in the back with boards from people driving by in trucks. It was extremely dangerous. But once we got on that campus of Jefferson Junior High, we were safe. But then people just still lurking around like sharks. That's the way it was. Then that's when I started playing competitive sports and having to stay over, past the regular time everybody leaving. We would always have to walk through the alleys just to get home. And once we got to Orange Street, we were safe, And then 9th grade year, go to a school called Wasserman High School. I love that school. Great school. School was great for me and so many others. For those of us that were in the 7th, 8th grade together at Jefferson, we had some time to get to know each other a little bit. There are some guys that were white during that time that I had tremendous respect for. Steve was one. You know who you are. I'm not going to say your last name. I'm not going to call you out that bad. Randy, you another. And there's others. Kevin, that I had some respect for. And you can tell we had a mutual respect for each other. Then, of course, 9th grade, we go to Wasserman. December, the fall of 1971, major race riot broke out over the whole campus. Now, keep in mind, this is in the white community at that time, and Wasserman used to be an all-white school. And we had a little over 1,000 students there. And the race riot broke out. I had no idea it was going to take place that day. All I know is I'm a 9th grader. Can you imagine in the 9th grade going to war? That's how I looked at it. Somebody else may see it differently, but for me, it was like war. Imagine that. All of a sudden, you arrive at school on the bus. All of a sudden, my cousins, I call them Cosmo and Kook, gave me their coats. Hey, Wilk, hold this. Next thing I knew, everybody piled coats on me. And you can tell something was about to happen because everybody started rolling up their sleeves. And I'm just following the group that I got off the bus with. And we had 3 black communities, Newtown, Acton Quarters, and Brown's Addition, that attended Wasserman High School. And it was 9th through 12th grade. And keep in mind, we had a little bit of time getting used to each other in the 7th, 8th grade in junior high, but you had your upperclassmen, they were thrust right into this without having an adjusting period. And boy, the fight kicked off over the entire school, upstairs, downstairs, courtyard, watching teachers getting beat up in a crowd, going down in a blaze, swinging themselves, police coming, and you can imagine, picture that. And then the ambulance services coming, taking people off. It was a horrific moment. And all I was a little 9-year-old kid going to my group, just watching everything happening around me, right in the midst of it, because the group I was with, they were in the midst of everything. And all I could do was just hold the coats and just go and just look and like in terror and in fright. Your 9th grade kid thrust into war. Imagine that. But then the 10th grade year, your seniors moved on. Things were really good. Then my junior year, it became fantastic. Fantastic. And it was so fantastic. We had an experience in which I got our team, our basketball team, and we were a big ball club at the time. And we competed against other major competitors. You know, Ruston High School, you know, they had 6'7", 6'10" guy. You know, you had Bastrop High School, who won the 1975 4A state championship at that time. We were on the same district. You know, playing against Dry Prone, Victor King, you know, and all those guys, he got drafted as well. It was a lot, you know, the competitive edge in athletics back in those days in the state of Louisiana was very high, very high. But back in it was about December 1974, we got to travel, our basketball team traveled to the state of Oklahoma, in which we played in a boys and girls basketball tournament. No, they didn't play together. You know, the boys would play, then the girls would play. And this was in December, so it was mega schools from everywhere. And we got to stay on the campus of Murray State College there in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. And we witnessed something that we had never witnessed before. People touching us, pulling on us. We spent the night in the dorm across the street from the gym, and that night, 3, I guess they were college students there, came to our dorm because we got a lot of attention. We were a big ball club, bigger than Murray State's college team. And we had a black guy. This was God sent. We had a black guy, a white guy, and a Native American that came to the dorm that night. And they had some 210 Everclear with peppermint chopped at the bottom, and they passed it all around, and that was the peace drink. And I had to explain to Coach Caldwell, in today's time, that's why we didn't perform well that following day, because we had all had drinking some whiskey, really. And but we had never seen such a friendly relationship. These guys, a black guy, a white guy, and a Native American, they're hugging on each other, talking and laughing. That was odd for us. And then we go down to Tishomingo High School, a guy named Walter Barnes and Donald Lusk, and people were pulling on us, touching us. It was off the charts. People that we're talking about that were non-black. That's when I discovered all places are not the same. And there are a lot of people who have had similar experiences as what I've just shared with you. Those examples can be used to get to where we need to be. Are we willing to sit down? Are we willing to get to know one another? Are we willing to develop relationships? Are we willing to stop this divide, even in politics? What better time it would be right now for any country of our enemies to try to conquer America, the United States of America? Because right now we're so divided. And the thing about it is, I'm going to tell you this. Black people, we're, from what I saw, because I was curious and I Googled it, we're the most religious people in the United States. We're the most religious people in the United States. We're really very law-abiding. But the police officers, the ones that don't have our best interests at heart, need to stop lurking around in our communities just looking for trouble. Now, I'm just talking about that few, the ones that are corrupt. Because changing America, it's not going to be easy, but it is obtainable. And I see the younger generation, you're going to be the ones to lead us into where we need to be.